If you're in corporate sales and you're tired of working long hours, long commutes and grafting for small commissions, then this is for you. In this video, I'm sitting down with Danny, one of my RSA students, who made the switch from traditional sales into remote sales closing, where he now closes deals from anywhere in the world, Asia, Europe. This one is not to be missed. Danny, great to finally have you on here, mate. It's been a while. I remember speaking with you back when you was in Glasgow on Zoom, and we were speaking, and I said to you, like, I promise you will make it to Bali. And here we are now. So I want you to share with the viewers like your story, where you've come from and how you basically got into sales.
Yeah, no, good to be here. So I started off sales when I was around about 18 or 19. I started off right at the bottom of the barrel. So I was doing door to door, selling energy. And from there, sort of worked my way up the ladder. So went from door to door and then actually went out.
How did you find it on door to door? Because I know a lot of young people that first get into door to door, they don't last like even 2 weeks. You know, that's obviously like my background from where I come from. And like, what were those challenges like back then as a young man, like getting that kind of rejection on the doors?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's hard working in Scotland in the winter, door to door. You know, we used to travel all over from Glasgow. So, you know, the weather was an initial problem, but yeah, you know, door to door, as you'll know, lots of rejection. But it, you know, it really helped me build character within the sales game. And I really enjoyed it actually. You know, it was great, you know, walking around, meeting all these new people and, you know, selling energy door to door is really, really tough because, you know, no matter what company you are within energy, you know, you don't get different gas or electric. Okay. So if you don't have, you know, a price point you're selling, so if you're, you know, if your company isn't the cheapest, it's a really tough sale. So there was lots of rejection, but I think, as you'll know, there's nothing better than, you know, going door to door, getting a sale. You know, you get invited into people's homes, and it's a really sort of different sale. So when I transitioned from door to door to sort of outbound sales, you know, that was my next step.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, but I think, as you say, you know, if you start there, I think it's the toughest gig that you can get, and you know, the rest is history. So
Molded you into the man who you are today, right?
exactly.
So when you say you were in like outbound sales, is that more like corporate world?
So yeah, well, yeah, moving into started working with a company called Scottish Power, who
Yeah.
everyone will be well aware of, and so it was outbound sales. So essentially doing the same sale. However, you know, you were trying to catch them on the phone. There was no sort of you know, they had the customers hadn't been preempted into this call. So again, a really tough gig, just calling people out of the blue, similar to door, you know, except you're not chapping their door, you're just calling their phone. So
Yeah. And how long did you do that for in total then, like with the kind of canvassing, knocking the doors, and then doing the outbound on the phones?
So I think door to door was probably about 9 to 12 months. I was, you know, I was really, really successful door to door. And the only reason I actually transitioned into the outbound was more for the career option. So it was a good company to work for at the time. And, you know, I saw a career in sales then. And again, you know, I wanted to get out of that Scottish cold.
Nah, I don't blame you, buddy. And within that company then, did you like progress at all from obviously doing the outbound?
Yeah, so went from outbound and then the next step up was like inbound. Okay, so inbound sales, as you know, is
Yeah.
probably one of the easiest routes to go in sales. You know, people are calling you and essentially you're just
Yeah.
um, you know, just signing them up. And then I actually changed company. It was actually a Scottish company, even though Scottish Power, you would think they're Scottish, they're actually they're owned by a Spanish company, Iberdrola. So I went to one of the only Scottish energy companies at that time, and that's really where my career took a turn. It was a pivotal moment for me, and that's when I went from, you know, outbound sales to team leader, then went to team manager, and then went to project manager, and finally ended up in like a like a leadership role in terms of, you know, head of sales there. So yeah.
No, I love that. And there's no better feeling like being in a leadership role, you know, in corporate sales when you're kind of obviously giving the youth of today a head start for tomorrow, bringing people in
Exactly.
and helping them, you know, we obviously maybe any limiting beliefs, mindset, so they can actually go forward and actually do it. And was there a time like when you was doing, you know, corporate sales when you were like, you knew deep down, like probably like myself, that you was meant for more? You didn't feel maybe fulfilled. When did that start like creeping in for you?
Yeah, so I guess, I'm a bit of a workaholic myself. So, people talk about the 9 to 5, it's never a 9 to 5 when you're in a leadership role. You're working probably 12 to 14 hours a day. And, as rewarding as it was, as you say, helping people and managing sort of big sales teams, it is a great role. You get a lot of um, reward out it. But
Mm.
I think for myself, someone who really likes to travel, and I knew that there was always something more for me than, 12 to 14 hour days, long days in the office. And I mean, you don't switch off, so when you leave the office, as soon as you get back home, the laptop's back on, and
Yeah.
the job's just constant. So, it's not like a job where you'll come in, you'll do your job, and then you shut your laptop off. There's always work there. It's always piling up. So I was someone who always liked to keep on top of that, and that in itself was, really, really difficult. So I knew that there was something, bigger and better for me.
No, I can definitely relate. Like, I used to obviously have to travel to Birmingham from obviously where I lived in Worcester. And like, I'd get home and I'd be on the phone, obviously closing deals with my obviously reps, helping them get deals. And sometimes you wouldn't switch off to like 8, 9, even 10
Yeah.
o'clock. And it's like you don't actually spend the time, with your family like you should. And even like, coming home, like I'd be on the phone hands free, trying to help them get deals on the line. So it's like I've literally left work. I'm still working on the way home, and I'm still working when I come through the door. I could literally be on the phone. And yeah, it kind of got to a point for me where I was like, Is this what it's going to be like these 12, 14 hour days?"
Yeah.
But obviously it changed, and we are here where we are now. But for you, like, what made you like look into remote sales? Like, how did you even like learn about remote sales?
So I left Glasgow in 2015, and I did a bit of traveling, and I was working jobs here and there, and I was always looking to get into something remotely where I could, combine my passion
Mm,
with my skill set,
wow.
So, um, many times I'd seen lots of different things online, but there was so much stuff out there, and there
Have
was no.
you tried anything different in the past then in that last kind of like 10 years online?
No, actually, I didn't do any sort of online sales. I think during COVID, I was actually out in Naples, in Italy, and my old, one of my old bosses has reached out to me, and he said, "Look, if you've got a Wi-Fi connection and a laptop, you'll be able to still work with us." And it was really that moment when I thought, you can work anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I don't have to be in Glasgow. I don't have to be in Scotland. And from then, it really did build up a hunger inside me.
Yeah. So what year was that when you was able to obviously do, like calls on the laptop, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. So that was just towards the end of COVID. So I think that's what, 2020.
Yeah.
And then it was like, right, okay. There's a definite, opportunity for me here to, be able to travel, be able to live all around the world, but still be able to sell and make some good money.
Yeah, that's obviously like the first taste of like, wow, I can make money obviously and be pretty much wherever I want. And we get it, like that's what everyone wants, but it's not easy. And yeah, how did you obviously like find out about obviously RSA and myself then?
So I actually found out through a friend, through Sam. So he posted something on his social media, and I've known Sam for years, and
Yeah.
I knew what his job was, and then he started posting all this different stuff about sales. So I'd actually just reached out to him saying, what is it you're actually up to? Because I'd seen that he was out traveling, and
Yeah.
he was getting into sales. So first of all, it was a general interest, sort of friend to friend, and then he introduced me to yourself, and that's where things got really tasty.
Yeah. I remember that call on Zoom when we first obviously had that conversation, like, and knowing obviously that you're, in corporate sales, and we were having a chat. And I remember just saying, I was like, look, you just trust the process. You've already got the foundation, but it is different.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say to someone that's already in sales, probably like myself and like you, bit of an ego, done millions and millions in face-to-face sales, and they feel like all they need to do is just get an offer. Like, what would you say to someone like that? Because that was me when I first started.
Yeah, and it was me as well. You know, I had all these years of experience, and I was just raring to go. You know, but it's quite humbling actually
Yeah.
when you go from what you're used to in terms of that traditional sale to remote sales. You know, I guess my biggest advice would be you have to strip the ego back. You have to, you know, take a step back and do the training because it's a whole different world, and it's not, you know, it's not the same whatsoever. Even though, you know, the fundamentals of selling are always the same regardless, it's really, really different, and you have to get used to it. So I would always say, you know, just go in there from a
When
humble perspective and go for it.
when you say different, like what do you mean by that yourself?
So I guess I was so used to, you know, I guess I was working in an industry, a certain industry for, you know, 8 to 10 years. So I knew the industry inside out. It was something that I could speak, you know, very easily about. And then going into, you know, a different offer was something that I wasn't used to. I thought I
Yeah.
could take the same skills from one job to another. So, you know, just, you know, really putting in the work, putting in the training, and then obviously getting the reps in when you actually get on an offer was essentially how, you know, I would tell someone and give anyone advice on that.
Yeah. And the same for me. It's like, you know, quite more mine was more high pressure. It was like, sell obviously the product, feature, benefit,
Yeah.
comparison, close. No really, obviously creating a gap, obviously creating that emotion, future payers, cost of an action, like all of this stuff was like brand new to me. And for the first 6 months, I refused to get help and I suffered, you
Yeah.
know. But what made you like actually want to invest in yourself, but also invest your time? Because someone who is in sales, they know they've got the confidence because they're already selling.
Yeah.
So they have probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest foundations is the confidence. But what actually gets you paid is the skills. As they say, skills pay the bills.
That's it. So yeah, I guess what really made me want to go ahead with it was just the, you know, the freedom that
Yeah.
it would give me. You know, I've always been someone who likes to live abroad. The job that I was in at the moment was really limiting me in terms of, you know, where I could be and what I could do. And you know, this offer and this opportunity really gave me the life that I've always wanted to live. I knew it was possible some way. You know, if you ask me what my, you know, three favorite things to do are, you know, it's, you know, selling, traveling, and you know, and seeing the world. So this offer and this opportunity was, you know, landed on my lap. You know, I don't know if it was a sign, but
Yeah.
it was everything that I wanted, and I knew I had to make that big jump.
I'd say, and running, it's got to be one of your favorite things,
Oh,
right?
yeah, running, but running comes with the traveling and seeing the world. You know, it all comes hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. So when obviously first obviously got into RSA, you left Glasgow pretty quickly, didn't you? I think you just had a lot of belief in yourself that you was going to make it work. Um, this is what I would not advise to everyone, but you pretty much burnt the boats, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we went all in.
Yeah. And where did you go to first? You was in Europe, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So I flew to Malaga, south of Spain. Spent a few months there, and then, you know, always one of my dreams was to come to Southeast Asia. You know, I've always wanted to see this part of the world. I'm very well travelled,
Yeah.
within Europe. Okay, I'd
Yeah.
never actually left Europe before. You know, I spent, I think 8 to 10 years outside of Glasgow. You know, traveling Europe and spent a lot of time in Italy, but I'd never came to this side of the world. So this was the next big step, and you know,
Mm.
we said it, we manifested it, and now we're here in Bali. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely made it happen. Let's go back a few pages then, just obviously for the viewers so they can see more of like the roadmap. So like we obviously had call, you obviously joined RSA, and how quickly from you like actually joining was it until you was actually on the offer? Like how many weeks in total? Can you remember?
It was quite quick. I think we did it quite quickly. Was it what, like 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks?
Yeah, I feel like I probably obviously put you on the offer quick because I knew
Yeah.
the confidence that you had. But how did it go for you? That kind of first couple of weeks of making that transition. I know obviously we was working together still, where he was on the offer
Yeah.
to keep obviously brushing up the skills. But what was it like? Going on to that different way of selling. Understanding like that you have to
really create that gap for them to actually want to change?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I think the big difference was I'd been in sales management 5 years prior to that, so I wasn't actually selling. So, I'd kind of worked my way up, and then it was right, okay, back onto outbound calling people.
Yeah.
That was the first step
Yeah.
of the offer. You
Yeah.
don't get straight put on bookings.
Not
So
princess closer, right?
um, so yeah, it was quite humbling. I thought I would be able to go in there and just smash it. That wasn't the case. There was lots of reps put in, and then me and you touched up on sessions after we started on the offer, but it was, yeah, as you say, it's a whole different sale. For me, it's a much more of an emotional sale.
Yeah.
And you're essentially selling someone, the opportunity to change their life. And, as you say, that future pace, really finding out their North Star,
Yeah.
was something that I hadn't done in a sale before. So yeah, it was difficult. I did have to take a step back and, drop the ego for a bit, which, as you know, is quite hard for us salespeople.
Yeah. Definitely.
And really sort of learn this new way of selling,
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So before getting into RSA, remote sales, what way would you sell now, knowing what you know? The old way or the new way?
Or the new way, for sure. I've obviously been in sales for so many years. I was, that traditional method. And then obviously what I learned in RSA was completely different. And I think, it really changed my perspective on the sale.
Online.
It's a much more better way to do things. There's no, we're not pressuring people. There's no manipulation.
Yeah.
It's actually really finding out what these people want and then providing them a solution that's aligned to their beliefs and what they need.
Yeah, you're a man of service now, you know?
Exactly.
And I
It's
feel
a feel
like
good sale.
it is, and I feel like we as salespeople, we get labeled, as a sleazy car salesman,
Exactly.
person in real estate, Wolf of Wall Street. But sales is changing. Like, people don't realize, but without salespeople, the world will naturally run. We're there to basically help someone. And every day, believe it or not, you get into your car and you choose Radio One or Galaxy.
Yeah.
You're selling to yourself while you actually want to listen to that music. Every time you go and obviously do the shopping and you pick that particular brand over that brand, you're selling why you want that.
Yeah.
Maybe loaf of bread, which is a different make or whatever. And yeah, I just understand now that I think there's a massive kind of shift happening where a lot of younger people are seeing sales as like the skill that's going to get them to where they want to go. Because if you go and interview, 20 billionaires, they're all going to say, look, I got really good at sales.
Yeah.
So what's made you like want to just stay in this remote space now and like just aim for obviously, the moon? Because we know what's possible. We've seen what people are obviously doing inside the community, but maybe people that are not in corporate sales, like what kind of money were you making back then before you obviously got into this remote space?
So we're talking GBP, roughly per month. You were talking 4.5 grand after taxes. What you were getting there, including some bonuses as well. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess what made me want to, my desire to stay within remote sales is, as you say, I think sales is the most important part of any business, and I think it's one of these roles that, we're seeing a lot of roles in different industries being replaced by AI and things. I don't think sales will ever be replaced. I think it's a very personal transaction, and it's something that, I'm passionate about, and I can see, just continuing to grow. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, and I agree. Like, AI isn't gonna replace salespeople. Like, it's gonna make our lives a lot easier.
Yep.
And you obviously have a CRM. People obviously understand what that is. It's where obviously like data leads come into a database, and AI is basically inside of there. That will make our lives 10 times easier. But so you're making around 4.5K in the bank for the corporate job.
Yep.
You don't obviously have to say exactly, but like for you, like what's been your best month so far in remote sales?
Yeah. So we're talking 5-figure months, which is brilliant, and I'll forecast,
Yeah.
in terms of a yearly income that I'll be earning 2-3 times what I used to earn. But you know, it's not only that. You know, I now have a lot more freedom. I can open up my
Yeah.
calendar when I want, and you know, one of the things that we spoke about, you know, at the very start was, you know, what is it you value? You know, is it time? You know, and freedom? You know, and they were one of the big things. So, I think, you know, I work a lot less hours. I have
Yeah.
a much less stressful life. You know, I don't have to. I'm not managing people anymore. And
Yeah.
it's just me. You know, so I open up my calendar whenever I'm free. Obviously, you know, always aligning with particular time zones.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, not only am I earning more money, you know, I'm able to travel. I'm a lot less stressed. You know, I can do a lot more of my hobbies. You know, I can run a lot more. I can see the world. So yeah, it's been massive for me.
Yeah. When you say you're working like a lot less hours, so you was doing what, 10, 12 hours back in Glasgow roughly?
Yeah. So you know, you know, me personally, I was like 12-hour days. You know, minimum. You know, so
Yeah.
I was one of these people. You know, even if I left the office, as soon as I got back home, the laptop's back on. You know,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with stuff piles up otherwise, and yeah, so a lot of hours, you know, some days I could be 15 hours and, you know, I would also work the weekends, you know, but yeah, a lot of other stuff, you know, so you had your day-to-day stuff within, you know, within the office and, but then, you know, you've got the wider project stuff, you know, operations, you know, dealing with clients and things. It was never ending. So, you know, it was,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of my time
Yeah.
was taken up. And, you know, in terms of the stress it was a very, you know, highly stressful job. So, yeah, it's, you know, I'm now working, you know, 6 to 8 hours. You know, I do that in the morning. I wake up really early. I wake up about 5 in the morning. I'll go out a run. The calendar's open, close some deals, and then you know I've got the rest of the day to myself. So it's a much better life.
Yeah, I know obviously the offer you're on is like super flexible.
Yeah,
You can obviously choose your own hours, and there's obviously a lot of people out there that think that you can just go into, you know, any offer and choose your hours, but that's not always possible.
yeah.
For that offer you can, which is great. But where do you see yourself, like, you know, in the next 6 months, you know, being in this remote sales space?
I just want to keep growing. I want to keep, you know, pushing the boundaries in terms of money. You know, money that I can earn and keep growing. You know, it's like I'm really happy in the position
Yeah.
I'm in, and you know, just keep. You know, I always like to push myself outside the comfort zone. So just keep growing. You know, I'm new to the remote sales space, so you know, I'm open to.
You're new, but you're on track obviously for 6 figures in your first year.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that just shows you in itself, you
Yeah.
know, like how good this is, and
Yeah.
you know how much people can actually earn if you put the work in.
Definitely. And like in terms of like obviously the coaching with RSA and myself, like how much do you feel that obviously helped you to make that transition to pretty much change your career, but not even just change your career, like change your whole environment, like going from Glasgow to being able to travel anywhere in the world? Not bad, right?
Yeah. No, I think without RSA and the training, it will, you know, I think the transition not only would have been difficult, I might have hit a plateau.
Yeah.
You know, there was lots of new tools that I learned, you know, being part of that wider community, learning from different people and, you know, all the skills that I learned from yourself
Yeah.
and, you know, in RSA in general. I think without it, you know, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today. That's for sure.
Definitely, man. And it was ballsy of me to say on the Zoom, you know, that you would be in Bali.
Yeah.
I didn't know we'd be doing this podcast, but I knew it'd obviously help you make enough money to be able to get out obviously your situation. What would you say, like, from myself then, like, how helped you the most? What stood out the most for you?
Um, you know, in terms of the way um, that you train, and you know, and it's real. The thing that I really liked was it was very straightforward. It was straight to the point. There was no BS, you know, and also the structure of the program. You
Yeah.
know, really sort of starting from the ground up. You know, there's no sort of, you know, you come in from sales, you learn here. You know, I think that was very beneficial for me, and just the, you know, the style in which you're training people.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, it's always a little bit more difficult when someone's coming in who've got more sales experience, but we also know that comes with the ego. And then I say to them, like, look, you need to come in and you need to literally just wipe everything out and just come in with an open mind and start from scratch. And, you know, a lot of people then just want to learn like the objection handling, which is all the fancy stuff. But what we really focus on is obviously the objection prevention.
Yeah.
So you don't get those, objections at the end. But no, I love that. And what would you say to someone who's like on the fence, of obviously getting into remote sales, and they believe that they can do it, but maybe they just don't feel like they know how to?
I mean, my advice would be, to anyone who's, thinking about it, just to go for it. I think whether you come from a background like me, which is, lots of sales experience, or someone who's not got any sales experience, I think RSA caters to both of them.
Yeah.
So I think, if you're coming in with me, you've got the foundations, but you've also got, the materials to learn this new way of selling. And, if you're someone who doesn't have any sales experience, we've seen people through RSA who are coming in, no sales experience, and absolutely smashing it on these different offers. So I think if you want to do it, you just have to do it. Invest in yourself. I got my return on investment after the first month, 2 months. I would say find a way. If you don't have, let's say you don't have the finances available, find a way to get them and go for it, because not only do you have the framework and in the community, it's one of these things that you continue to learn. You're always learning. And I think that's one of the things about RSA is it's not a program where you'll go through the training and then you're on the offer. It's that continuous training. As things develop and as you develop as a salesperson, you have everything there. So it's not just one of these offers where you'll pay for a certain amount of time and then that's it. You're out into the wild west of the remote sales world. It's that continuous development that will really sort of mold you into the perfect salesman.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. It's like we can obviously get you ready for the offer.
Yeah.
We obviously have our own in-house, obviously, recruitment team as well, so that they can find those opportunities for you. But once you get on the offer, you can do all the role play in the world that you want, and we can repair you. But if this is not ready, then sometimes you're going to be crumble, and that's where we're going to be here to be able to obviously pick you up, rebuild you, and get that confidence to know that it is possible. And then once you do, obviously, once you start getting some momentum, you start obviously putting some sales and you get some commission, you are going to plateau. You are going to hit a brick wall. And then we'll be there again, obviously, to, get you better. And there might be certain objections that you're struggling with as well. But yeah, Danny, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. And we've got the man from Glasgow, Sipta Bali, right?
Yeah.
So loved it, mate.
No, thanks very much, and I can't thank you enough. We said it at the start, and now we're living it. So it really is a dream come true. And anyone that is looking to join, I would definitely advise them to go for it.
No, I appreciate it, brother. Let's go and enjoy the sun.
Cheers.